if you are a top respected IT professional in Sri Lanka, do you believe in Sri Lanka yet, Ramesh?
I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come back from US to here maybe, I don't know, 24 years back. I do. I sincerely do.
Ramesh, what made you, I mean, I know you have really made the grade in this industry. What made you actually get into this industry?
So actually, as I said, I don't know, my influence was my uncle who was in electronics, right? And from kind of young age, I was intrigued by electronics and, tech. And once I got into Motor 2, I thought, the way world is moving, IT is the way forward. And I took an early leap of faith into that industry and kept my thing kind of honed to it. So the more I kind of got into it, I really got passionate about it, and I'm still here.
So, when you finished uni, did you have to apply for job, or you got picked up?
No, actually, I had a couple of offers, yeah, because most of the first classes get absorbed by SLT. So I went to Sri Lanka Telecom, but I thought it was full of red tape, and I decided to join DMS Electronics. Was there for about 2 years, and then moved on to US for my masters. Then came and joined KBSL, yeah, under Keith model.
So, if you get another chance, will you look at another profession? I mean, just going back on memory lane.
Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. Maybe between engineering and tech. Highly unlikely. I would have taken any other field.
And a warm welcome to another session in the series of Meeting an Expert. As APIT Sri Lanka, known as Asia Pacific Institute of Information Technology, we are honored to host this session today with another veteran in the corporate world, especially in a time where many discussions are held about global challenges and overcoming them. So on behalf of APIT, we would like to welcome all our students and members from partner universities, and all the foreign delegates who are joining from all around the world, along with the diplomats, and of course, all the other distinguished guests. So to start with, I would like to invite Chairman of APIT Sri Lanka, Mr. Bandule Godage, to share his visions and expressions. Chairman, over to you.
Thank you, Kaushali. First of all, it's a privilege and it's a great honor to welcome Ramesh, today is the chief guest here. So on behalf of our CEO, Roshane Godagi, and the board of directors, the participants, all the lecturers, the student population, and those who are joining from various destinations. So on behalf of everybody, very warmly welcome you here with us today, Sir Ramesh Shanmuganathan. Indeed, in spite of a busy schedule, being a senior vice president of private sector institute, so therefore it's a great honor, and I'm sure he also wants to do something for the society and something for the students, because what he learned is time to give back to the society. I'm sure that he will do it in a very honorary and also very responsible manner, that this is how the corporates are thinking about it. So APIT is well known for quality education, but we know that whoever who is joining APIT, he will be end up as the graduate. But we are going beyond. We need to do not only the academic excellence, we want to be every one of the APIT graduates are basically going as a leaders. We need to build leadership competence, and we need to have a well-rounded personality when they are leaving APIT. That is the whole objective initiated by Dr. Rohanta Tukorala. We are bringing the many leaders of the society, people like you, Ramesh, the opinion leaders, to get your view, your direct interaction with these youngsters, to get the maximum out of you. So it is the whole intention. I mean, you will agree with me. During our school time, we didn't have that interaction. Talking to the CEO, talking to the head person like you, opinion leaders, they are little far from us. But Dr. Rohantha believed that, we have to give that opportunity to our younger generation. Even the leadership panel, the leaders, they want to give back to the society. That we know for sure, because it's not because once they read to climb up the corporate ladder, that they are turned, because they have passed that age. They know how difficult to, get that important interaction during their school time. So therefore, APIT went beyond and one step ahead, and taking people like you, for the students, the platform. So once again, thank you very much for being with us, sir, Ramesh. I'm sure today many ambassadors, now it's become a popular webinar created by Dr. Rohantha. Is a great initiative. Many of the ambassadors, many of the leaders join, and now whoever who join now, they are coming as a participant here to get that experience wide across. So without making any time further, I would like to hand over this back to Dr. Rohantha and Kaushali. So once again, thank you very much, Ramesh, spending your time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman of APIT and Vice President of Nestle, and he's also Chairman of the Industrial Association of Sri Lanka. I appreciate for your thoughtful words. We have today a person whom I have a lot of respect for, someone who is not just looking at the corporate ladder. He always takes time to share his knowledge through different Facebook, LinkedIn profiles and updates, which actually, is what most of the youngsters look for. He is an entrepreneur and a corporate executive, the current executive vice president and the group chief information officer of John Keells Holdings PLC, the largest listed conglomerate on the Colombo Stock Exchange. And he has held this position since 2006. A member of the John Keells Group Management Committee for IT Industry Group, the former CEO of Keells Business Systems, a fully owned subsidiary of John Keells Holdings PLC, since January 2000 to December 2005, a systems integration company in the country, as well as a director strategy and new business initiatives of John Keells Computer Services, another fully owned subsidiary of John Keells Holdings PLC, a leading software development house. Educated at the Royal College Colombo, graduated from the University of Moratuwa with a first-class honors BSc in Engineering, Electronics and Telecommunication. Later went on to gain an MBA from the Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Sri Jawadhanapura, and also received the Hayes Fulbright Scholarship to study for MSc in Information Technology and Computer Science at the Rochester Institute of Technology, and graduated with a Phi Kappa Phi honors. He is currently reading for a Doctor of Business Administration at the International School of Management, Paris, France, a chartered engineer, chartered IT professional, and a fellow of the British Computer Society. He's an active member in several other professional institutions, visiting faculty member of several postgraduate programs. He's also the chair of the Sri Lanka Association of Software Services, SLASCOM CIO Council, and is actively involved with ICTA and the Presidential Task Force on IT in steering IT to a greater heights within the country. Ladies and gentlemen, actually I have the honor of introducing this very, very eminent person, not only just academically, but in the professional realm, which is very seldom that we tend to meet. And of course, a beautiful human being who always wants to share his knowledge. And if you just go, as I said, to his LinkedIn profiles, you will see the kind of updates he gives. Ramesh Shanmuganathan, Executive Vice President and Group CIO of John Keells Holdings PLC. Sir, over to you.
Thanks, Rohan. I'm flattered. Thanks for having me, and happy to kind of take the session on. I know Rohant has already shared a title, but I've just slightly modified it so that I can speak a bit more broadly on the topic. So what I thought is, given the current context, obviously in the last 2 years, a lot of us have gone through something like a huge black swan event that we never expected or never anticipated. And that obviously has reset or push reset on a lot of the things that we've been doing. And it also probably gives us food for thought in terms of looking at what is that we would want to build to become agile, nimble, and sustainable, given where the world is going, and given a lot of those things in terms of like a pandemic, we would not be able to predict, right? So just to kind of put things in context, I thought I will just talk about man and machine, because today, I think the world, the digital world and the physical world is tightly getting integrated and is becoming one and the same. So that's what I mean by man and machine, right? So just to give it a bit more context, if you look at from a global scenario, this is statistics as of January 21, we have 7.8 billion population, 5.2 billion having access to mobile phones, 4.6 billion having access to internet, and 4.2 billion are active social media users. And if you kind of drill down to Sri Lanka, so we have 21.4 million population, 30.4 million having access to mobile phones, which would mean that a person would have more than 2 connections, and internet users at close to about 11 million, and active social media at about 7.9 million. So what does it mean to us, right? So today it's becoming pretty kind of obvious that today world is becoming more flatter than ever before. I think if you have read Tom Friedman's book, The World is Getting Flatter, it is so true today, right? So today the degrees of separation, about 10 years back, it was 6, right? With a population of 7+ billion, to reach to any 2 people, you will need 6 intermediaries to get to the second person. So today in Facebook, social media, which has close to about 3.5 billion users, the degree of separation has collapsed to 3. So 3 intermediaries you could get to anyone on Facebook. So what does that mean, right? So today you have a humongous opportunity and a reach which you never had before, right? Before the man, the machine got connected, right? So today, that also had pushed the power from the corporates in terms of the big companies who were manufacturing, or the governments or the enterprises, to the constituents. So today a consumer has much more power than he had before the man and machine got connected, right? So I always say the big ask for any business is, if a consumer woke up and asked, I want what I want when I want it, are you in a position to fulfill it, right? So that's a huge ask, right? So which would mean I should be able to predict what you want, when would you want it, and where would you want it, and be able to fulfill that order or the obligation or the service, right? So in that context, the question is, do we know our customers, right? So the traditional thing, if you look at, if you kind of roll back 30 years, everything was cash. There were not even credit cards, right? So then when you do cash transaction, obviously you don't care who the customer is, right? Because you're giving a product or a service and he's paying by cash. So today, with the concept of credit, people started profiling customers for credit, right? That's how the financial instruments started proliferating, where you started profiling customer in terms of credit worthiness, because you're giving credit, right? Like the Polimudalali, then you know who this person is, okay, what he can pay, so okay, I will give him so much, right? So today, that concept has expanded to every bit and pieces of things that we touch and feel and maybe consume, right? So then what does that mean? So today, if you talk of Ramesh Shanmuganathan, is it a single person, right? Maybe physically, but I would have multiple personas. I am a father, I could be a student, I am an employer, could be an employee, I could be a football fanatic, I could be a sportsman. So the whole issue is depending on what is that you're trying to profile him for. If you don't have those in-depth data points about the consumer, you can't profile that person and fulfill his or her service, right? Or what he or she wants in terms of I want what I want when I want it. That when the question gets asked, you need to be able to profile that person to the nth degree to be able to fulfill that person's needs. So this is where the persona thing comes in. So this, I'm sure you would have watched this movie, but this is having multiple personalities. But this is, I'm just talking about multiple personas, right? So the whole concept is then how do we make what a consumer wants frictionless, right? So look at what Amazon Prime has done today, right? So during the pandemic, the biggest guy who benefited out of this was Amazon, right? Because they were ready, they had all the supply chain equations figured out to be able to deliver anything to everyone at home. I want what I want when I want it became much more easier because they had a reconfigurable business model that could cater to this, right? So what I think today is if you are building a business, it should be like a Lego toy, right? So you don't go and buy a car, but you reconfigure. You can break and rebuild things, reconfigure things dynamically, and so that you're so agile and nimble that you're able to cater to adapting environment and evolving demands, right? So then the next point is if you are looking to personalize. Now this is an example from Coke, right? So here you have 5 different people's names, but can I profile them and put these labels if I don't know enough about their health situation, right? So I'm saying Daniel needs Diet Coke or Coke Zero, and Joanne needs Diet Coke, and others can have normal Coke, right? So which would mean I need to have data points about their health and whether they're diabetic or not, right? So the whole issue about personalization is that you have to then treat every individual not on a mass personalization in terms of looking at its individual attributes to be able to offer a better product or a service, right? So this is where I think technology comes in, right? So when the going gets tough, people would think, hey, let's not kind of do anything. Let's sit tight until things recover, right? But it's a better way to look at when the going gets tough. Is there an opportunity that situation presents that you could capitalize on, right? That is what I'm exactly talking about in terms of building a smart enterprise, right? Is now today with the pandemic, a lot of the organization, a lot of the students, a lot of the things easily shifted or were forced to shift to working from home, right? But what enabled that? It was tech, right? So the man and the machine was there always. 10 years back, Zoom existed. 5 years back, a lot of these platforms were available in Sri Lanka, but why wasn't it used, right? It's not that the man and the machine was not there, but the man and machine was not integrated enough to get the benefits to each other or drive the benefits to each other, right? So that's about connecting the dots, right? So when I say let's look at creating value, right? So how do you create value, right? So it's not about looking at the traditional methods, the traditional ways, but you need to then start looking at what are non-traditional means of creating value, right? So today, for example, now if you look at what Amazon did or what we did with Key, especially with the mobile app, home delivery, and kind of launching the app to kind of enable people to shop online easily. So this is all in terms of looking at the current context, the consumer demand, shifting ecosystems, and see how do you reconfigure business model, right? And tech plays a big role in that, right? So the companies who were pretty mature in terms of the tech platforms really was able to ride through the pandemic better than those did not have, right? So that is the learning outcome from the pandemic is today tech is an integral part of any business, like your nervous system, human anatomy, right? So how do you create value, right? So this is, if you just probably look at even the Kim Chan's book in terms of Blue Ocean strategy, it's about either you manage your cost or you create better value in terms of differentiating yourself, right? So the couple of the rules of the game which we use in the tech field, I think these are probably not new to you guys, but these are something which is very critical for you to look at, right? Automation today, you don't want to be doing things manually when you can automate a lot of these things through robotic process automation or various scripting mechanisms where you are able to then do these things 24/7. It's not about, so today no businesses can tell a customer, hey, I'm 8 to 5. You can only kind of transact with 8 to 5, right? Because customers have choice. So if you are not 24/7, obviously the customer is going to migrate somewhere else where he is able to consume the 24/7, right? And today people are looking for intuitive ways that they could transact with you, right? So you can't tell them, okay, you need to learn English to do business with me, or you need to have a loyalty card or this credit card to do business with me, right? So that is where AI becomes pretty significant, because today natural language is becoming more and more acceptable and more easily usable mechanism of interacting with any business or any organization, right? Because that's just speech, right? So today the computational power, the AI algorithms have got enhanced so much. You could easily kind of today, if you take Siri, you take Google Talk, the accuracy is pretty good, right? And a lot of these can be embraced by businesses in terms of embracing natural language as a critical UI point of view, right? Then IoT, as I said, we could today bring in a lot more tech to give you precision, give you accuracy, and also to extrapolate other data which are useful to kind of create a greater value in terms of what you want to do, whether it's supply chain, whether it's home delivery, whether even within the supermarket you would want to kind of profile aisles, give dynamic price tags, right? So if you go to the Lorries Road Keel Super, which got launched recently, you would see a lot of the latest tech in motion there, right? So this is all in terms of self-checkouts to the electronic price tags on the shelves to a lot of the stuff, because we are just also experimenting to see the uptake on it and how consumers feel about it, right? And this also kind of drives to the next point in terms of the data becoming the currency in terms of driving future value. And personalization is something that I touched upon, right? So collaboration. So the next one is, right, a lot of the times, I think, if you have been in MBA, I'm sure myself and Rohantha, when we were doing MBAs in the 90s, backward integration, forward integration were two significant key strategies, were preached like gospel truth. But today, if any business goes and acquires in terms of backward integration or forward integration, I would think that will be foolhardy, right? Because today, more and more businesses are looking at the value chain and saying, hey, what am I good at? If I'm good at manufacturing, let me create an ecosystem and collaborate to do the fulfillment, right? So if you look at the pandemic created so much of entrepreneurial capabilities in the households, right? So today, if you look at the restaurants which are listed on Uber and PickMe, have probably quadrupled, and most of these are households. They don't have a restaurant. All they have is a kitchen, right? But still for all, because they have an ecosystem where they're able to supply to a demand without having all of their infrastructure, which has enabled them to kind of become entrepreneurial with whatever capital that they could pump in, right? So that is a new normal, that's a new economy, that's a digital order with the platforms and the man-machine integration that brought about, right? So this is something about design thinking, because this is, I think, is very relevant, especially when you're trying to kind of manage tech, and in the turbulent times, it's important for you to understand and manage your investments iteratively than looking at huge investments upfront and tying your cash in terms of benefits that you might reap maybe 5 years down the line, right? Capitalizing things, right? So that is where today, if you look at the concept of the startup concept of MVP, minimum viable product, iteratively delivering things in kind of 3 months, 6 months, 9 month steps, right? Like what we did with the Keys mobile app or the website. It's a good way to go, right? Because then you will get feedback quickly from your customer base, and also you're able to improve on things and correct things faster, rather than doing it on a capex cycle, which might take a project might take nine months, and once you capitalize it, you have no other option but depreciate it over the next 5 years, right? So this is where the concept of design thinking also helps in terms of improving your R&D as well as testing capability, and iteratively improving your service delivery or product delivery, right? So this is that whole concept of design thinking, lean startups, and agile delivery, right? So this is where the world is going, and this is what we embrace in terms of looking at new iterative solutions. Like we've kind of launched something called Smart Office for the employees, then Smart Retail we launched for Kiel Super, and we are currently working on a Smart Home solution for Trizen, which is coming up on Union Place, right? So we are looking at a lot of these smart stacks, which are going to be the point where the customers will interact with the kind of solutions or services or products that we offer. So this, I just wanted to kind of talk about the strategy canvas, which is key in terms of in turbulent times. Now, you look at Southwest Airlines compared to other airlines, right? They picked out 2 pivot points, friendly service and speed, and they kind of reduced their cost in all of the stuff, like meals, lounges, seating choices, hub connectivity. So it became point to point, but they differentiated on 2 significant aspects in terms of a short haul, where they wanted to marginally increase their value proposition, right? So that's the value lever they said they're going to amplify and reduce the investment in other areas, and then really scale the business, right? So this is something which worked for Southwest Airlines, right? So in each of your business, it's important to kind of look at a strategy canvas and look at, in turbulent times, what are the key levers that you would want to leverage, and then manage those optimally, because that is drive value, right? And that is where I feel TechCos has a huge role to play, and in terms of building the collaborative platforms. So this is where Southwest Airlines ended up in terms of their strategy canvas. And if you look at friendly service and speed, are those 2 critical levers that they amplify, right? So this is again the business model canvas. So if you look at Southwest Airlines, who were they trying to serve? What was the value prop? How did they create that value? What were the investments? What were the returns? Right. So then, if you just read through, I don't want to kind of bore you guys by reading through each of these stuff, but this is exactly finally the business model which will get delivered. But here, if you look at in integrating all of this, tech becomes a crucial element of differentiator, right? Because 24/7 service becomes a key deliverable, self-service becomes a key deliverable, customer care becomes a key deliverable, choice of touch points in terms of kiosk, mobile, website become a key deliverable. So I think, and integrating the ecosystem partners like the hotels to the taxi services to the rent-a-car providers, all of those guys, right? So it's about creating the collaborative platform where you focus on your core business, and then you create choices for the consumer by creating a platform economy. So this is exactly what I was saying, right? So the linear value chain has now is fast converging to value ecosystem. And a value ecosystem is very dynamic, because today I have the power to log into Amazon, order something, pay through PayPal, and get it delivered through DHL. And I configure that value ecosystem on my mobile phone, right? The supplier doesn't, the delivery guy doesn't, the payment guy doesn't, right? So that's the power of the platform economy today, right? So today, if we are able to leverage that, you will create more opportunity than fighting for opportunity. So this is the possibilities, right? So today, with the man and machine getting connected, consumerization of everything is going to become faster reality, right? Collaboration is everyone knows today. My kid is 14 years old. He plays games with, I don't know, from whatever countries, I don't know, right? So collaboration today is borderless, truly, if you want to, right? So even today, we know this webinar is happening. I don't know who is listening to this, from which part of the world, and what relationship I had with them, right? So today is truly become so sophisticated. Otherwise, you would have probably had this session at your conference hall, and you would have very limited to the students who physically were able to come there, right? So today, pandemic really has changed, rewritten those rules, and make collaboration a truly a realizable proposition for everyone, right? Anytime, anywhere access is a reality, provided you have the choice to connect the two dots between the man and the machine, right? So a lot of the businesses very stubbornly refuse to connect the man and the machine, and those are the businesses who will not survive, right? And those are the businesses who've taken the hit as well during the pandemic, right? So interactions are becoming very critical, right? So today, you take whether it's a student, whether it's an employee, whether it's an employer, whether it's a government official. Today, I think Zoom and Teams are two pervasive words everyone will know, relate to, right? Was that the case 2 years back, right? So today we have truly a common platform which connects all of us, right? In addition to the mobile phones and whatever internet what we had, but obviously the choice of the tool became a differentiator, right? So everything, as I said, going by Facebook standards, it's just separated by 3, and it'll diminish, right? So pretty soon, tech is going to enable a lot more closedness amongst the global population, immediately of where they live, what language they speak, or their time zones. So what is the real context of creating the new normal, right? So this is where each of you need to kind of reflect on what is the context that I'm operating in? What are the key assumptions for my business, right? What are the key points of friction for my stakeholders, customer, employee, a partner? Do I see an opportunity to create a unique value like the Southwest Airlines, right? What are my pivots that I would amplify? Right? Where are the pivots where I feel I'm spending money unnecessarily, where I would manage those costs, right? What is the next point of inflection in my game, right? Is it going from a physical supermarket to 100% digital store, right? Is it about like Amazon Fresh delivering everything to the home, right? You could, right? Because today with the data points we have, we could predict 80% of your shopping list if you're a Nexus member, right? So what is stopping us from delivering that to your home? Right? But do you see value in that? So those are the choices which will make the differentiation in terms of the iterative points, right? And creating a value ecosystem where you also manage your investments, you manage your capital, and you focus on your core competency, and then complement that with partners who could create the ecosystem, right? And what's the business model that you would use to monetize, right? Whether it's Uberization, whether it's things like Airbnb, all of those things, if you look at with the least amount of assets, they were able to create a business model because there is an unmet demand and over supply of certain value creating propositions, right? So these are opportunities that you might want to look at during the pandemic and see whether you could create value using the platform as a lever. Right. So these are a couple of the shifts that you will do that recognize, and you would probably see, right? So organizations are moving towards platforms, right? React to anticipatory, same hour delivery to predictive delivery, big data to thick data, which I spoke of about personas, understanding a person beyond just cosmetics, isolated to seamless, linear to circular, right? So large central warehouses, this is into the logistics to small intelligent hubs, close to transparent, human-driven to autonomous thing. Like, so everything is becoming autonomous today, right? We are talking about autonomous vehicles and autonomous stuff, but today we got to see whether human intervention is required, and if it's required, what is the value that human intervention is creating? Otherwise, why have that intervention, right? So this is that whole thing about marrying the operational data, O data, and experience data, X data. So operational data is which comes from your ERP, experience data is which comes from your CRM and the front end tools in terms of the mobile tools, your AI, all of that stuff, right? So that ultimately the intelligence is what is going to enable you to become smarter and to fulfill the promise, I want what I want when I want it, to your customer. So these are a couple of the must-dos, right? Obviously, when you're looking at things today, you've got to look at what is the opportunity for me to disrupt myself and the industry, right? Like what Southwest Airlines did. So what are the key pivots? What are the key value propositions that customers are looking for, which are unfulfilled, where I could make it a value prop, right? Then how do I create a business strategy to make it stick, right? And how can I create an ecosystem where I invest on the core constituents and complement them with partnering, right? And how do I bring about a cultural change within my organization to drive this transformation? This is the biggest challenge that I've seen in organizations where transformations fail, right? The fourth point. Because people latch on to status quo, their comfort zones, and they don't want to shift. So these are different pointers in terms of a recap, in terms of looking at value levers, looking at customer partner insights, right, and the opportunity, and obviously build a platform economy on tech. So what is the transformation? I think it's three-pronged, right? So you've got to really look at transforming experiences for your constituents, be it a customer, be it your employees, be it your partners. Then transform operations, right, for all the constituents, right, in terms of your back end, front end. Then looking at transform business models. How do you create value? How do you monetize your business, right? So these three are key three pivots or three strategies that you need to embrace in terms of driving, especially during turbulent times. How do I really create value and sustain it? So these are just to explain from a core. If you look at traditionally businesses, these are the KPIs a traditional business would have measured, right? But in the digital era, these are the KPIs you would want to measure, because this is what ultimately creates that frictionless as well as customer experience, right? So how many of you measure these things, right? And where do we have KPIs to monitor or capture, measure, and improve these KPIs? So that's my final slide, right? So I just don't want to labor on the same points, but one thing that I would want to kind of amplify is to create a digital vision and build a Digarati culture. So that is a culture of experimentation, doing R&D, fail safe, fail fast, do iterative small steps without standing still, take a step forward and incrementally. So I'm done with that. Rohan, over to you.
Very much, Ramesh, and I was actually making my notes while you were presenting. Very, very interesting. I really liked how you brought about this whole area of developing an ecosystem, and that ecosystem is what actually drives you, which differentiates you from the basic product which you just marketed, which is so true. When I look back, what the pandemic did was that the smart guys developed an ecosystem around a product, and now that whole ecosystem is has become a business model. So unless we look at it in that perspective, we lose the game.
Because I remember the peak of the pandemic, Sampath Bank actually delivered cash to whom? using Pick Me or some last mile delivery guy, right? They didn't say, now how do I take an ATM to the customer? But I have to deliver cash to my customers because they need cash to survive, right? So it's about looking at one or two pivots and then see, hey, where can I make it stick?
And then how you differentiate from one of those value propositions, or how you build from one of those value proposition will ultimately depend your competitive advantage. Actually, that's fantastic, Ramesh. I really liked what you presented. It made me to think a little bit of what has happened to the world, which a lot of us don't think, because all what we see is the gas prices and the bankruptcy and the absolute governance issues in the country, that sometimes you forget to sit and conceptualize and think from the current business, the opportunities which are there. And I really sincerely thank you. I really honestly, I enjoyed and I was actually making my notes. Thank you so much, Ramesh. And a few questions have come, and I just like to share a few of them with you. And one question that is coming is, how does one work in a country heading to bankruptcy? Your view to a youngster studying for an MBA.
Okay, so I think personally, I feel whether the country is bankrupt or not, we should not be bankrupt of ideas, right? So obviously, when a country is going through bankruptcy, or if your company is going through tough times, obviously the first choice would be to preserve cash, right? So then if you want to preserve cash, the obvious choice is to look at like what Southwest Airline did, right? What are the areas which are core to my business that I have to invest and grow? And what are the areas which are non-core to my business where I could partner and save cash, right? So that is where I said today, a lot of the people who survived the downturn in most parts of the world have been pretty tech savvy, right? Or were pretty glued in the platform game where they will be able to, like a Lego, reconfigure themselves easily. So when you're in a physical environment, it's very difficult for you to say, if you buy a physical toy, you can't break it and now make another toy. But if you have a box of Lego, if you don't like the toy, you break it and build something, right? So that is what the digital platform, the tech platforms gives you today, right? So businesses who have seen that opportunity and potential and invest in it were able to quickly reconfigure, right? So today, because of Uber, a lot of these guys were able to plug into that Lego toy and just be even a cog in there, right? And create value, right? So I think that is the opportunity I feel the new normal is going to create. And that is where I feel even if the country is going bankrupt or if your company is struggling, don't stop on investing on your core business as well as in creating the platform which will kind of enable you to go beyond Sri Lanka and serve the constituents beyond that, right? Because it's by choice that we limit our products and services to Sri Lanka. So today, there is no excuse for us not to be taking our products and services global, the platform economy, right? There's no need. As I said, 3 degrees of separation. You have the entire world at your disposal, like Amazon and Alibaba and all of these guys. Why just market your products and services only to Sri Lankans?
Very
so that's where I think you need to preserve cash, invest on your core business, invest in tech, and look at really doing those investments also incrementally, not in big bang, right? So the whole thing about owning assets, investing in capex, depreciating over 5 years, that era is gone, right? So we need to kind of rethink how do you assess investment, do investment appraisals, how do you really remodel payback, ROI, MVP, IR, kinds of thing for big projects is good. But today in tech, you use those tools to assess, evaluate tech investments, right? Because today it has become a must do thing. And if you don't, you get left behind, right? So that is where, as I said, when going gets tough, the tough gets going because they see a silver lining which is going to come out of it, right? And if you can align to that, and if you can take those calls, then you will be a survivor.
Very interesting question coming up. It's from Ashwini at the Stafford MBA program. She's a final year student. She's saying, if you are a top respected IT professional in Sri Lanka, do you believe in Sri Lanka yet, Ramesh?
I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come back from US to here maybe, I don't know, 24 years back. I do. I sincerely do.
Ramesh, what made you, I mean, I know you have really made the grade in this industry. What made you actually get into this industry?
So actually, as I said, I don't know, my influence was my uncle who was in electronics, right? And from kind of young age, I was intrigued by electronics and, tech. And once I got into Motor 2, I thought, the way world is moving, IT is the way forward. And I took an early leap of faith into that industry and kept my thing kind of honed to it. So the more I kind of got into it, I really got passionate about it, and I'm still here.
So when you finished uni, did you have to apply for job, or you got picked up?
No, actually, I had a couple of offers, yeah, because most of the first classes get absorbed by SLT. So I went to Sri Lanka Telecom, but I thought it was full of red tape, and I decided to join DMS Electronics. Was there for about 2 years, and then moved on to US for my masters. Then came and joined KBSL, under Keith model.
So if you get another chance, will you look at another profession? I mean, just going back on memory lane.
Highly unlikely. Maybe between engineering and tech. Highly unlikely. I would have taken any other field.
Ramesh, I mean, you are an exceptional professional. I mean, first class honors from one of the top universities in Sri Lanka. And of course, you have championed technology at John Keel's. And I mean, what is your honest advice to an MBA graduate when all you see right now is the negative news on media? Well, I wouldn't say negative news. It's a reality in the marketplace, which has happened due to many, many reasons. And that is the reality we are living in. So what is your advice to a youngster? Because you also must have had this same experience way back, because at that time it was all about bombs going all over the countryside. What's your advice, Ramesh?
I think the all of us, I always say, need to be optimistic, right? Optimism is something keeps us alive, right? So I think yesterday, I know Lasit had posted a thing. When you are born, you have a breath, and when you die, you don't have the breath and you have a name, right? So what you live between when you're born without a name, have you taken your first breath, to when you die, when you take your last breath, is what you call life, right? So I always say, enjoy your life, right? And learn anything which can add value to you, where it could make your life better, right? It's not about money that you make. So I don't think money buys you happiness, right? But ultimately, as I said, today knowledge is free. The degree costs you money, right? But the important thing of doing an MBA is you have an end goal in terms of learning something which is going to advance your career. Focus on that, right? Because nothing is going to stop all this negativism or all of these which is going to happen around you, right? But an MBA should give you the confidence and the capability that you have better tools and we are equipped better to deal with it, right? Because running a business doesn't mean that every day is going to be hunky-dory, right? So today, because what I enjoy about my job is every day when I walk in, it's a new day, and it's never a dull moment, full of challenges, but different challenges, right? But what gives you the confidence to face the challenge, right? So MBA is going to obviously teach you new things, new concepts, give you a new knowledge, broad base your outlook, so that it opens out your vistas and gives you a kind of good footing, right, to deal with these kind of situations, right? So I don't think you should get kind of dejected by what's happening around you. These are learnings, right? How the government should not run countries. What is the kind of outcome of leveraging on debt capital to run a country, to build infrastructure which has not much return, right? Because ultimately, when you borrow, you must know that you have to pay back, right? So these are expensive lessons as a country, which can happen to a company as well, right? So these are learning lessons for all of us, how not to run a company or not to run a country.
I really like what you said. Knowledge is free, but a degree costs money. Which is so true. Right now, as we speak, it's what we gather outside our classrooms and our study material that actually adds to that kind of a wisdom rather than actually the money we pay and learn. I think it's really fantastic. So, Ramesh, what are the key challenges that are there at JKH from the IT front?
So for us, obviously being a conglomerate, obviously we have big investments in tech, right? So as I said, though we would want to kind of pivot and shift, obviously, as I said, we have made significant investments. So we need to, and we are running tech for 70 plus businesses across 6 industry verticals, right? So which also makes it more challenging in terms of managing the dynamics, because each industry has different nuances in the current context and moving forward. So we're also trying to see how do you best manage the transition in terms of giving each of the industries that lever in terms of taking tech to the next level, right? So that is where now from a centralized kind of thing, we are also going into a decentralized mode to enable each of those industry groups to be kind of more agile and leverage the platform economy. So we are doing the reconfiguration right now. So to speak, as I said, we did not probably build a Lego maybe in the last, maybe prior to 2015. But from 2013, 14 onward, we also started building this Lego model, right? So I think we are probably at the tail end of that phase. In the next 3 years, we will be reconfigured to be able to give the businesses that option to, kind of build what they want and enable themselves to be agile and drive whatever they wish to do under a common governance framework. So that is exactly what we are focusing on during the pandemic, so that we are able to kind of give that agility and nimbleness through technology and platforms to our businesses.
So, I mean, in today's world, I suppose everything is data point driven, and if a country is not going to be data point driven, you tend to make mistakes. Like for example, the fertilizer issue that happened, Ramesh. I'm just wondering is how can the tech industry support the government to make better their decision making with data, because right now we don't see that what coming out. So how does the IT sector support the country as at now?
So today, I know there are multiple initiatives that we are working on. I think ICT is championing a lot of those with Jayanta and Koshada. And they're also kind of now trying to create a government CIO in each of the ministries. So it's getting incubated, because I think that's a good start. It's better late than never. It should have happened 20 years back. Then we would be facing this disaster. Because obviously, I think a lot of decisions are getting made on gut with wrong information being fed to maybe the decision makers. And I agree. I think we are not using enough data points to make decisions. And if we did, I don't think we'll be in this peril. Yeah.
Do you have a coach, Ramesh?
Not really, but I have kind of people who I kind of pivot after, and obviously that keeps changing based on the evolving landscape.
So, what is your wish for Sri Lanka?
My wish for Sri Lanka is to truly, supersede Singapore and Dubai, and we should have 20 years back, if not for the war. I think we had all the ingredients to be better than Dubai and Singapore.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I know I have to let you go at 7:30. Ramesh,
That's fine. I can stick around if there are questions. I'm more than happy to.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much. What is your advice? Before I actually come to that question, there's one question coming out which says, is it worth on the cost of investing on technology and against the return that you get? Very interesting question.
So when you say cost of investment on technology, this is where I kind of tend to maybe kind of say that you need to align any tech investment in terms of business outcome, right? So the business justification is what should drive tech. So that's where now, if you look at traditionally, tech is run like a cost center and decisions are made independent of the business. Is not the way to go, right? So that is where there has to be alignment in terms of tech investment, in terms of driving value, and that value has to be sustainable. So that this is where the payback either is reaped or not reaped, right? So for example, now you go and invest on say techies, for example, right? We went and ramped up our internet platform, right, during pandemic, because before pandemic we had 100 orders a day. Post pandemic, it started kind of hitting about 5,000, and we couldn't cope with it because it was kind of outsourced and managed, and we took it upon ourselves to revamp it, right? But was there ROI in it in terms of we could have said, okay, post pandemic, these guys will come back to the store and we won't do it. But we did it, right? So during the peak of the lockdown, we had about 20,000 plus customers on online as well as on a mobile app, right? But what has that given us today? Even if people are going back to the store, they clearly acknowledge that you all gave us a choice to shop when shit hit the fan, right? And that is appreciated. So the ROI is not about ROI in terms of rupee terms, right? So this is where I think we need to understand. So when I spoke of the X data, O data KPIs and X data KPIs, you are forgetting the X data KPIs in terms of the ROI, right? Customer satisfaction, customer choice, customer loyalty, customer retention, right? What if we had lost 50% of the customers? Where would the ROI come from? Your ROI would have anyway got depleted because the revenue would have gone, right? So we have to look at in terms of ROI is not just about financial ROI, right? It's about other aspects as well, right? Customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, customer retention, right? Making his journey frictionless so that you will be able to sustain the revenue stream. He would become the advocate of our business, right? So there are other aspects to that, right? This is where I feel we should move away from a traditional way of looking at ROI purely financially.
Tough question coming up, Ramesh. It says, if you were asked to advise the president on two things, given that you are the chief information officer for the #1 top conglomerate in this country, what would that advice would you be giving? It's from a guy called Yasir, who studies for the MBA at Staffordshire from UAE.
Two things in tech or anything generally?
Two things from your tech experience.
So tech
That's what he
experience,
said.
I think we need to have a digital identity card for every citizen, right? Which is a must have, right? And the second thing is all the government agencies like the man and machine must get integrated to the rest of the world in Sri Lanka so that everyone could transact electronically and do things electronically rather than wasting a whole heap of time standing in queues to get passports to these things to the other, right? So today, if you go to Malaysia, you can go to a kiosk, take a photograph, you can apply for your passport, right? So we got to look at digitizing the e-citizen services and make whatever citizen wants to do frictionless. Right? That if government does that, we would be able to really decentralize a lot of these things and make the functioning of the country much more smoother. And it will also create a lot more data points, like you said, for the government to act on as well. Right? In the lack of the digital identity card, obviously they don't have enough data points about citizens and what they do. Right? So you could easily kind of restructure the government as an e-government once you have a digital identity card launched, right? So I would think to fast track that, and then let the private sector also play a role in whatever the government is doing.
Thank you, sir, for the answer. And he says, is it possible for you to give an idea on how our currency issue can be corrected?
I am not a corporate finance guy, but I have read enough about restructuring of debts, right? So the issue is, I personally feel there is no point we trying to kind of clear our name in terms of saying we did not default a debt when your citizens are kind of starving of essential items, right? So it's important that the citizens' needs are put on a priority, and we kind of do whatever we have to in terms of restructuring our debt, right? Whether we have to go to IMF or whether we go to other country donors who are willing to think, but we got to go and renegotiate the payments for the debt, right? Because if you let it go like this, obviously we will pay our debts. Our citizens, half the citizens will be on the street or starving to death.
Thank you, Ramesh, for that very honest advice, and it was really fantastic chatting with you. New knowledge, absolute cutting edge in terms of IT, very to the point answer, and I suppose that what's come when you have a strong degree. Your mind is trained to get to the point quickly. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That is Ramesh Shanmuganathan, the Executive Vice President, Group CEO of John Keells Holdings. Thank you so much, Ramesh, and really enjoyed the session today. Can I give you to Kaushali? Over to you again, please.
Thanks, Rohantha. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you very much,
Kaushali.
Doctor. Thanks a lot. Indeed, money is not going to bring you happiness, but your knowledge will. And that is, as we always say, the expert experience, knowledge sharing that is coming to all our dear students that you can't simply take in just another theory or just another textbook. So thank you so much for your time given today. And we really appreciate it. And that brings us to the end of another webinar. So we'll meet back again in another week. Until then, take care of yourselves and good night from Sri Lanka.
Thanks, Ramesh.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.